Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Bridger of Worlds podcast. I am your host, Ioannis Kokkinos. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're on YouTube watching, thank you for tuning in. And if you're on one of the podcast platforms, thank you for tuning in as well. So I'm going to be honest with you. This is about attempt number 5 that I've been trying to make this episode because there's a specific thing that I want to talk about. It's a specific topic I have in mind, but it just hasn't been coming through. So as I've been saying so far, there's always something cooking in the ether, and my job is to bring it down into the physical. So maybe that meal is just not ready yet, but I do feel like I want to get in front of the camera and in front of the mic, be a little bit more raw, probably, because I'm feeling a little bit more tender. I'm feeling a little bit vulnerable. Today's episode number 20, and I did make an episode a few episodes back talking about imposter syndrome, facing fear and how challenging this has been because it's not something I ever thought I'd be doing. I don't talk about easy subjects or topics. So today I won't be talking about imposter syndrome, but I would love for you to touch base with that episode because really that episode was from the heart. And it's talking about facing fear. And even if we're not 100% fully ourselves, if we're not feeling 100% right, whatever the fuck that means, right? Showing up is showing up. And maybe this will tie in a little bit to what I have been wanting to talk about, what I intended to prepare for this episode, because it is about showing up. And that is the masculine polarity, the masculine energy. So this will be directed towards men. Women can also benefit from this information because we all have a masculine polarity within ourselves, no matter what gender we identify with. And bottom line, the masculine is about showing up to witness, right? To hold space, to create space. And I think growing up, as far as conditioning is concerned, in fact, I know, not I think, I know, because I am a man and I know many men, teenagers, and boys have been victims of this conditioning is how much we need to perform, how much we need to look a certain way, how much we need to act a certain way in order to be deemed masculine. So I think this is going to be like a little bit like a verbal diary today because there's just things I need to get off my chest. I will be talking about what I wanted to be talking about at some point, but I'm going to go with this right now because it's feeling good. And I also have to trust what is alive in the moment because it's not just about me, it's also about you receiving the information. It's about what you're ready to receive and what you're ready to hear if you are here with me listening and or watching. So, especially as a man, right, I can very much identify with all these pressures of needing to act and perform and be a certain way in order to be deemed masculine. So we have like a lot of pressure around being very stoic, right? Not showing emotion and being able to handle or take control of a situation when most of the time it's out of our control. It is exhausting. I think a lot of men are exhausted with this constant pressure. Yes, the masculine energy is the provider, is the defender, is the space holder. But sometimes we too need to collapse. Sometimes we too need to break. Sometimes we too need to rest. Sometimes we too need to contract. And this is very much about man being more in tune with his feminine energy because the feminine and the masculine are two sides of the same coin. I'll never stop saying that because it's true. So we think, or we've been conditioned to feel like men, to feel masculine. We constantly need to be in our masculine. Masculine energy has its place and it gets things done and it's very needed and is very vital for the life condition, the human condition, the cosmic condition, right? It's a polarity, it's an energy. But so is the feminine. The feminine energy has her place, has her expressions, has her energy, has her polarity on the cosmic, life, human scale. And we all have both polarities. Now, in my journey, because I felt I was feeling so emasculated growing up, especially as a teenager, I wanted to feel more manly and I had no idea how to. Obviously, the conditioning is about sports, getting drunk with your male friends at a bar, cars, racing, right? Gym, which I eventually fell in love with training and exercise and all that. But that's not for every single man, male in the world, right? So, how do these men get to feel masculine? For men to feel masculine, for us to feel more in our masculine, is to basically learn how to hold space. Because the masculine energy is about witnessing and is about showing up. And this very well includes our own inner experience. So if we are shutting ourselves down because we're not in 100% performance mode, or we're not 100% perfection mode, we're not showing up the way we should be showing up, we're actually denying the part of us that is feeling scared, that is feeling vulnerable, that is feeling tender, that is feeling sensitive, that is feeling afraid, right? And that's most likely a younger part of us, a younger version of us that is not maybe ready to be exposed to the current reality. And that's okay. Like, that's perfectly okay because that's a part of evolution. It's a part of letting go of the old life and the old energy within ourselves. But in order to let go, we need to face that old life. We need to face that old energy. We need to hold space. So maybe this is sounding a little bit repetitive, but I do just want to talk about what is alive in me because I did have a certain topic that I wanted to talk about today, but it just wasn't coming through. And yeah, I was getting a little bit frustrated. I was getting a little bit annoyed. I was going into the old programming and like trying to figure out why the blocks are there, but I cannot preach and teach without practice. So I want to invite you in today into this practice and into this energy of, okay, the block is there, the wall is there, the frustration is there, the imposter syndrome is there. How do I work with it? How do I move through it? And what is the wisdom? Because there's always wisdom. There's always a gift after an ordeal. And I'm not saying that this is like a big time ordeal because there are an array of ordeals that can happen, right? Like low intensity, high intensity, but there's always a gift. There's always wisdom after we go through. And I guess I'm tying this back to like masculine energy because we've been conditioned that we have to constantly perform, that we constantly have to be a certain way in order to be deemed masculine. But I say F that because it's not my jam. And I think that a lot of men are getting tired of this narrative. I say that because I see how many communities are being created around the world, how many retreats are happening, right? Men want to be more in their emotional nature, not because we want to get softer. Men want to be in tune more with their emotions and their feelings and their bodies because they unconsciously know this will render them more masculine. So let me paint this picture, right? If emotion and feeling is what drives our humanity, and we are conditioned as men to always be logical, this renders men more inhumane, right? To constantly be in the mindset and to constantly be cerebral and to constantly be logical is first and foremost disconnecting and disassociating from the body. And if we are disconnecting and disassociating from the body, we are rendering ourselves more inhumane because to be here, to be incarnated into physical form means to have a body, and our body is where everything resides. And I'm not talking about just like organs and arteries and veins and blood. I'm talking about emotion and feeling and energy, life force. And men want to feel more masculine. What does that mean? They want to feel viral. They want to feel vital. They want to feel motivated. They want to feel courageous. They want to feel able. They want to feel capable. But in order for those feelings to arise, they need something to have those expressions of their masculinity come through. And that something is the feminine. In order for a man to mission, in order for a man to feel purpose, it has to be for something. And the distorted masculine or the shadow masculine will say, maybe it's glory, maybe it's pride, because the masculine is the one, is the singular. And we do need to cultivate and craft and forge and sculpt a sense of identity in our lifetimes. This is very, very crucial. It's part of the individuation process, which means knowing who we are. But in that knowing of who we are is to also know that we are here to be of service. And that means going out of ourselves. It means connecting with the world, with the people around us, with friends, with family, with partners, with lovers, and so on and so forth. So no matter how much man, let's say, wants to be in their masculine for glory and for pride, this will always come down to the shadow masculine, because that is about disconnecting from the world and from the people around him. Conscious masculinity is showing up and going beyond oneself for a greater call, for a greater purpose, in order to serve the world, in order to serve humanity, right? Like the warrior archetype, the archetype of the warrior can be very traumatizing, can be very distorted. So many unnecessary wars happening right now in the world, so much unnecessary strife and trauma. But we need warrior energy, because the conscious warrior, healthy warrior energy is about serving a greater cause that goes beyond himself. And that should be love. That should be connection. I think the warrior archetype deserves an episode on its own in itself. But a lot of us men do want to feel that fire. We do want to feel that passion. We do want to feel that like warlike energy within ourselves, because that is our primal nature. And it is ancestral, it is generational, it is biological. But that does not mean that we are to start fights with every single person that pisses us off, or go enlist ourselves in the next war that's going on. That's not at all what I'm saying when we are to embody or cultivate healthy warrior energy. But the warrior is a part of our primal nature, and we want to feel more primal as men. And the warrior gets shit done. The warrior is courage. The warrior is motivation. The warrior is breaking through barriers and fighting the good fight. We always need to stand up for what it is we believe in, right? That is warrior energy. Doesn't mean punching everybody in the face or constantly lashing out on someone who disagrees with you. It is about working with the energy and tempering that fire. But we never want that fire to go out, especially as men. And sometimes that fire is not always blazing bright. Sometimes that fire is not always roaring. And sometimes that fire is quieter. So if we truly want to feel masculine and we want to feel like we are in a masculine energy, we need to learn how to show up for all facets of that fire, all facets of life, really. And again, this is speaking to the feminine, because the feminine is the cycles, the feminine is the change. So where I said the masculine before is the singular, the feminine is the two, right? Is the feminine that brings the two singulars together. So masculine is one, feminine is two. The two become one, right? So sometimes we need to be more introverted. Sometimes we need to go more within ourselves. It is very important for men to learn how to hold space for feeling an emotion that resides within themselves, because in this way, they'll be able to learn how to show up better to the partners of their lives, to their surroundings, and so on and so forth. There won't be as much projection. anymore, right? And when we project, no matter what gender we are, we're actually denying and rejecting a part of us that is being mirrored through somebody else. So this is what was alive in me today because, as I said, I had something very specific I wanted to talk about, but it just wasn't coming through. So instead of shutting the phone off, and instead of closing the mic, I decided to talk about just what is alive in me. And to be honest, because I'm not 100% all the time, and I don't think anybody is. And I know it's hard with social media and TV and culture and movies and everything that we're exposed to, right? Um, we feel like we need to show up a certain way. There's this pressure to be, and this, of course, includes women. They have their own pressures, they have their own social expectations, right? But men do too. And I know there are a lot of conversations around patriarchy versus matriarchy. And I know that men have mostly been at the center of most crimes throughout history. But there are men out here in this world right now that are fucking good men. And we do want to do better. We want to be better, but we have been severely misguided, severely led astray, right? Because we thought we had to do something or had to be someone in order to be deemed masculine. And I can guarantee you that there are a lot of men that are wanting to do the work, that are wanting to show up, are seeking community, are seeking brotherhood, and are wanting to show up better in all the relationships of their lives. I'm definitely not the only one. And even though there's a lot of trauma at the hands of men throughout history, I want to say that men too are victims of this. It's not just women. And maybe I'm going to piss off feminists by saying that, but it's the truth. And that's where I'm at. So I'm going to leave it here. These are my ramblings for today. It was a bit of a verbal diary, I think, a verbal journal today, but hey, why not? This is what I'm here for. From day one, I said this was a space about full transparency and honesty. And I so appreciate you being here, listening and watching. If you feel like somebody needs to hear this, please share the content. If you're on YouTube, like, subscribe. I so appreciate that. If you're on one of the podcast platforms, share the episode with whoever you think may need to hear this. If you are a man watching and or listening and you are seeking conscious community, conscious brotherhood, you want to connect more with your body, you want to connect more with your feeling, your inner world, so that you can show up better as a man, so you can show up more fully, stronger in your masculine. I totally fucking see you and I totally fucking hear you. You are not alone in this journey. Okay. And for the women who are listening and watching, for those that know that men are seeking this kind of work and are doing this kind of work and are able to hold space for us and have patience and offer nurturing, and you're receiving and your surrender, know that I see you too and that I honor you as well. So I will be back next week with another episode, probably with the topic that I wanted to talk about today. I just needed to get this off my chest. So, yeah, next Thursday with a new episode. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. As always, please remember that you are the medicine and I'm just the messenger. Take care.